Today, I'm answering your questions. Let's dig into it. I made 2 posts, one on the YouTube community tab and one on Twitter. And here's the questions you guys had for me. Let's start with Twitter. Can you get as much visceral enjoyment from cheap IEMs as you do from headphones that cost way more? I think so, absolutely. Things like the Moondrop Aria, actually you showed in this picture here, are fine for things like that. I really loved the final E2000 as well. A lot of people in other countries prefer IEMs over headphones. So really, it just depends on your taste. And there's some really, really good IEMs out there. What's a good way to get into the industry? I'm hoping to find my way in someday, but any advice would be greatly appreciated. I would say be active in communities. Discords, forums, things like that. Talk to people. I mean, a lot of vendors are on these forums and on these Discords. You have direct line of communication with a lot of audio companies. You can learn a lot, and you can network and build connections. A lot of these places might require certain degrees or things like that, but you could learn that talking to people in the communities. And I would make sure in those communities people like you. If I'm transitioning from a portable audio setup to a home-based desktop setup, what should I be looking out for? Budget $1,000. Ooh. Well, it's hard to know without knowing your preferences. I recently reviewed the FiiO K9 Pro though, and I absolutely love that, and I love the Hyphaman Sundar. You could get both of those together and spend less than $1,000, and I think that is a killer desktop setup. But it just depends on what your sound preferences are. Some people might want an HD6XX and a tube amp. But since you already have a portable setup, I would take whatever knowledge you have from that about your preferences and then try and shift that in the same direction. Either way, a quality DAC amp is nice to have. I really like the FiiO K9 Pro. I also like the JDS Labs Atom Stack. Do you play any instruments or make music of your own? Yes. I should probably link that on the channel one of these days. Not today. But instruments, I play piano, play a little bit of drums, I play some guitar, I'm not very good at that. Piano's kind of always been my main instrument. Hi-Fiman R7 DX good? No. No, it's not. Also, why do they name it that? It sounds so similar to the R7DX, it's just confusing. What's your current favorite song or songs or soundtracks you've been listening to lately? Well, Lyrics to Go Volume 3 by Coda the Friend, and of course, the Halo Infinite and the Skyrim soundtracks, believe it or not. I've been kind of getting into those lately. Oh, and Woodkid, Prologue for the 2024 Paris Olympics. That is a super, super cool track. But above all those, Lyrics to Go Volume 3 if you like hip hop, rap, that kind of thing. Should Harman really be treated as a standard target for everyone? Harman is kind of a guideline more than an exact. It's not perfect, but I don't think it's a bad starting point. But I don't think that it's like the golden, perfect, above everything else target. Thoughts on silent revisions of headphones? Are you a fan of the practice? How to spot the changes? How to spot the changes is kind of a hard one because case to case, a lot of the silent revisions are to fix problems. So, one company might change part of a headband, another might change part of a pad. It could be a million different things. A silent revision, I don't particularly mind if it's a welcomed improvement, but it's kind of nice when they tell you that something is a slightly newer version, or at least announce that there is some level of change coming. I get why companies don't, but I kind of wish that they did, or kept an update list of hey, now this thing has changed. That way, if it is a positive change that prevented people from buying a product in the future, they might be like, oh, this thing is fixed now. I can finally get this headphone I wanted. What people mean when they say timbre is plastic or metallic, that's kind of hard to describe without using audiophile terminology again, which I guess keeps it confusing. Plastic always sounds really dry to me. It doesn't sound very solid either. You think of plastic as a material, it's slightly malleable, a little bit softer than things like metals, but it's also boring and kind of cheap sounding. Metallic timbre, I tend to think of the timbre of steel drums or things like that. Things that are a little bit hollow, a little bit resonating, a little bit harsher on the top end. Clear MG versus Clear OG. Clear OG. It's just how it is. You've talked about wanting to branch out from the audio world a bit. Have you considered starting a second channel similar to what Josh has done? I'd love to do that, but I just don't have the time. So I'm just going to be branching out the DMS channel. Yeah, I know, I've said this a million times, but I am going to branch this channel out. I'm gonna talk some more about tech, I'm gonna talk some more about gaming, just the things I enjoy talking about. You'll see that soon. I'm forcing myself to do it starting in mid-February, so Just you wait. In a way though, audio will be on 2 channels. It's confusing. You'll see when the time comes. Has being into audio so long given you any issues with tinnitus? If so, what helps? Actually, yes, I do have very mild tinnitus as a result of when I was sound engineer. And the thing that helps me the most with it is I actually have a medical card in this state, and a little bit of CBD and THC goes a long way for helping both inflammation and tinnitus. In general, I don't listen to music very loud. I don't recommend listening to music very loud. And my tinnitus is mild enough that I can only hear it in extremely quiet rooms, but CBD is legal pretty much everywhere, and it might help you out, so it's worth giving it a shot. And if you live in a state where cannabis is legal, well, there's very mild indicas available in liquid form. I found one that doesn't inhibit me during the daytime and still helps to alleviate a lot of my symptoms of pain, and mild tinnitus got better as a benefit. Your mileage may vary. This is a long question. Basically, can you enjoy headphones after having hearing loss? Absolutely. I know people who can only hear in one ear and don't have much hearing in their other ear and still buy really high-end headphones and can still hear the differences between them very well. A lot of people with hearing loss pay a lot more attention to the things they actually can hear. So for someone like that, honestly, they might benefit from a higher end headphone even more than the rest of us. Oh gosh, stuck on an island. I can only bring one headphone, one IEM, one DAC, one amp, and one album. That's so hard, man. That's tough. I'm not gonna pick all of them. I'm just gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna say HT650, a tube amp, and dark side. I mean, what more do you need? It's not perfect, it's not the best on the planet, but it would definitely keep me content for a month. Oh, my studio backdrop. Yeah, I've talked about this a lot. These are actually plastic panels. You can get them on Amazon. I will link them in the video description. Do they help for sound treatment? I mean, they do very mild diffusion, but if you want them to work for sound treatment, you can fill the backside with foam, and that actually does make a difference. Set up tour when? Soon. Probably second half of February. What got me into the audiophile world? What's one thing that I could change about it? Oh man. I would try to change how insanely toxic in the community can be. You don't see it often. A lot of the community is great, but there are some super toxic people out there in pretty much every hobby. I'd change that if I could, and honestly, I've kind of always been in the audiophile world in some sense. When I was a kid, I was ripping speakers out of old broken televisions and putting them on cardboard boxes. There was a pair of Sennheiser headphones that really set things in motion. I can't remember what they are, but if I find a picture of it, I'll put it on the screen. What IEM or earbuds would you keep as an emergency pair to leave in the car? Final E2000, because those are great, and I think they're like 40, 50 bucks. If you wanna go really cheap, VE Monks or Youngcrow X6, I think is what they're called. Best closed back headphones under $500 and $1,000. Ooh, all right, I'm gonna say the closed X at the under 500 points. I think that's right at 500. At 1,000, it's gonna be Aeon Noir or Focal Celeste, depending on your preferences. Do I think affiliate links harm a reviewer's credibility? That's a really good question. I think they can. I've had this conflict a bunch of times because obviously the channel needs to make money to operate because I have to purchase gear, keep this whole video production thing rolling and put a crap ton of time into it. But at the same time, if I recommend a product and I put an affiliate link to it, well, there's potential that I could make money off that product that I then recommended. So in a lot of ways, this can incentivize reviewers to leave lots of positive reviews on things. I already know that reviewing something negatively means, yeah, I won't make money off that product, and I'm okay with that. That's why I still have a day job. My general thought process is if I don't like something, I will put up an affiliate link to something that I do like instead. But really the things that support the channel the most are Patreon, the people who support it directly, AdSense, so the ads you watch before the beginning of videos, and occasionally sponsors, like this is a Govee sponsor, this light right here, they sponsored a video a while back. Eventually, I would love to phase out affiliate links. That might be happening at some point in the near future if I can get some good sponsors, but we'll see. But overall, yeah, I do think that affiliate links can be a conflict of interest, but I don't think that every reviewer is taking advantage of that. I think there's a lot of guys that are giving their honest opinions on gear. Chronicle once said that the best pair of closed back headphones are IEMs. What is your opinion on that statement? Maybe it's easier to get a really, really well-tuned IEM, I think. And IEMs are way more portable, but I just like closed headphones more. I think they sound bigger. I think that they're more comfortable, but Dusk was really good. And Dusk was on par with a lot of expensive closed-backs. I know this is a blanket statement, but personal preference. That's gonna be the deciding factor. Do I EQ? Sometimes. Are there any headphones that I think are really good with EQ? Yes, and this guy answered it right there, the ESP95X. If you wanna do a little bit of EQ on it, pull down that like 1.2 kilohertz, give it a little bit of extra bass. Oh, that headphone is so good. I don't usually EQ. I do have the shit Lokius, and I love that thing. I really need to make a video about that. But I don't know, I don't usually EQ because I swap so many different headphones through my setup that it's a pain to turn on and off EQ and bring the EQs to all the various computers and devices I use around here. And a lot of times I listen with vinyl too, and the only real way to do that with EQ is to convert it to digital, EQ it, and then convert it back to analog, and I feel like that defeats the purpose of vinyl. So sometimes I EQ, but usually I don't. Is there a technical reason closed-back planars are difficult to tune? Airspace. Big drivers, they need a lot of air. If you want to take an open back planar and make it closed back without redesigning the driver, you need a huge cut behind it or a hell of a lot of innovation, because those big drivers need a lot of air to sound the way they were designed to sound, which is open air. Do DACs sound very different like a lot of reviewers say? That's tough. I mean, headphones are the biggest variable in any system, or speakers, or the room. But if we're talking just headphone systems, headphones are the biggest variable. Behind that, it's tough. I think that a really good DAC can make a solid difference, but I think a lot of DACs sound the same. The same as with amps. A lot of amps sound the same. Some amps are really special and stand out. So, do they matter? I mean, yeah. Can they sound really different? Yes. But I don't think just swapping your DAC is gonna make your system go like from the worst thing in the world to the best thing in the world. It's a lot of small pieces that add up and make incremental differences to an overall better experience. So you have a good headphone, you have an amp that's pretty good, you have a DAC that's pretty good, you're listening to a good source. By source, I mean like, FLAC or some sort of lossless file, not just streaming. Streaming is still good too. But they all add up together. Oh, here we go. On the same thought of that, I use Spotify as a source. At what point does the source become the bottleneck? Well, I mean, I do use Tidal pretty often, and it's known that Tidal isn't perfect. It does make a difference. If I'm sitting and listening to DSD or vinyl, it really does sound better than streaming like Spotify or Tidal. But I still use Tidal more often. And the reason is it's another incremental difference. Are you holding yourself back? Sure, but how much? If you already have a good headphone, a good DAC, and a good amp, I mean, yeah, at that point you should probably consider listening to higher quality files if that is a major concern, if you want to keep stepping things up and get that next level of detail and definition. But for most cases, it's not a huge deal. I think the jump from Spotify to Tidal is generally speaking worth it. But like I did in a video a while back, I think if you walked in a room and they were just playing music on some speakers, you wouldn't know if it was Spotify, Tidal, or a local file. You'd have to really A/B them to be able to tell the difference. Am I more subjective or objective? I try to do both. I try to do sections about subjectivity and objectivity. I realize that, certain things, measurements definitely help convey them better than just talking about them. But also I don't think measurements are the end all be all. I think they're very important, but there's a lot of things subjectively that can't be measured that I still enjoy in a lot of gear. Have I modded headphones with my 3D printer? Yes, and I'm actually still working on that Close 6XX project. I just have a million other projects on my plate, but I do plan on putting out some more modding videos at some point. Why does everyone skip the 660S compared to the 650 or 600? The truth is, it's just such a different headphone. Some people like the 660S a lot more, and I get why they do, but I feel like it loses that super narrow intimacy that the 650 and 600 has, and that's part of their magic. And the 660S isn't really as high of impedance, so it doesn't work quite as well with tube amps. How are you doing, man? I'm doing okay. I'm still trying to get my health on track. Working a whole lot. The new set is built, as you've seen. Just excited to see where things go. I would really love to make some videos about gaming. Ooh, $1 million, but I could never listen to music again? No, I couldn't do it. I would rather be broke for the rest of my life and listen to music for the whole thing than have $1 million fall into my lap and never be able to listen to music again. Music literally is like the center of my life. Well, and my dog. And my family. You know what I mean. How big is the difference going from mid to high-end headphones? I think that's a matter of perception. Because some people, they really don't care about the difference that much. They're perfectly happy with something in the mid-range. For some people, they just chase that nuance and it's night and day. For me personally, it is a big difference, but I still love to use things in the mid and the low end because I think it makes things in the high end easier to appreciate, and I think there's a lot of fun stuff that's more affordable. If you really want to gauge the difference, go to an event like a Can Jam or Exponent or something like that. Listen to a lot of different things in the high end. Can Jam's probably your best bet. And gauge it for yourself. Does it seem like it's worth it for you? Because that's gonna change from person to person. What do I plan to do different with this channel in 2022? Something I wish I'd done in 2021. More diversification. I'm always gonna be doing audio in some way, but I really wanna talk about some stuff that's related to tech, gaming, just DIY things, just fun stuff. I'm gonna be playing the crap out of Destiny the Witch Queen, so if any of you guys are into that, let me know in the comments. Oh, and I'm working on a review for a phone, so that's kind of different. What are my personal recommendations for mixing headphones? 2 things you should have, not just one. You should have a K361 and an HD560S and go back and forth between them. That is my go-to for recommending if you are mixing. Get a K361 and an HD560S. What on earth made you think Shang-Chi was the best Marvel movie? Okay, I recently watched Shang-Chi and I thought it was awesome. A few things. I thought that the character development was slower and more realistic. People don't change overnight and become entirely new people. Everyone loves the hero's journey, but this guy didn't just suddenly flip the script and become the champion that everyone needed him to be. I mean, yeah, he started kicking ass at some point in the movie, but he kind of always was doing that from the beginning of the movie. He always was this same character. He just had a little bit of a realization as things went on. So the character development was at a realistic pace, and honestly, I liked the color grading. A lot of the colors weren't super exaggerated and super high contrast. It was done in a way that looked more accurate and more restrained. And I just really, really appreciated the color work done in that movie. Also, the soundtrack was dope. Will I ever listen to the Take T H2 Plus again? I hope not. I really hope not. Why don't reviewers talk about distortion levels of headphones, but bang on about distortion of DACs and amps? I don't know. I mean, I try not to talk too much about amps and distortion because I really think that at the point we're at, it doesn't matter. And truth be told, I don't think it matters that much for headphones either. Maybe in some fringe cases where it's very extreme, but for the most part, I think if you put 2 headphones side by side in front of somebody and we're like, hey, one of these is slightly higher THD than the other. Like this one is 0.1%, but this one right here, this one is 0.3%. They wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Now, maybe if you were like 0.1% versus like 5 or 10%, I don't think it matters nearly as much as people play it out to be. I think things like comfort, frequency response, all that, if we're talking about objectivity, which I guess comfort isn't even objective. There we go, circling back around to the point. So much of this hobby is subjective. It's literally the subjective enjoyment of a subjective art. Objectivity has its place. It has definitely advanced audio considerably over the years. I don't know why people rag on distortion so much. Sure, it matters, but I don't think that it is the single most important thing that people play it out to be. That's it. I rolled through all the questions that I feel like I can get into a video without making it super, super long. Let me know in the comments what other stuff you'd like to see on the channel, because I have a lot of things that I'm whipping up. And if I know what you guys like, then I can kind of narrow it down to which things are actually gonna get posted. And that's it. You know what? If you have more questions, leave them in the comments. I will try and type up a few answers when I get some free time. But other than that, that's gonna wrap this video up. Guys, if you like this video, leave a like down below. Don't forget to stick around, subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Until next one, guys. Peace.